2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, as you can see, I've got my Golf GTI with me in the background, and in this video I'm going to give you my 12-month ownership review of the Golf GTI, and I'm going to cover things like maintenance, generally how the car's been like as a daily over the 12 months, servicing costs, MPG, that kind of a thing as well. And for those of you that are new to the channel, I'll give you a quick walk around of the car and things that I've done to it to make it look like the way it's looking at the moment. So yeah, let's go and look at the car firsthand, and then we'll take you on those country lanes and give you my 12-month review of my GTI. So for regular viewers of the channel, you already know my car, but those of you that have just stumped across my channel, this is my MK8 Golf GTI finished off in the King's Red, which I think is probably the best looking GTI colour. From the rear end, I haven't really done anything apart from the rear spoiler, which is inspired by the Club Sport, and I think it just makes the rear end just look that much complete as well. And when the sun is out, the colour really pops. I mean, you can't argue that colour looks quite striking. I've updated the alloy wheels and I'm now running bowl alloy wheels. These are 18 inches, but the offset is slightly wider. It's a 45 rather than 40. Essentially means that I don't have to run spacers, and they do feel like they're not pinched in as much as they were on the stock wheel. So the wheels do give the car quite a nice look and stance, and it pretty much turns heads wherever I go as well, which is quite a nice thing, because this GTI doesn't look like many others on the road right now. So there's no real change around the front end. I'm not thinking about putting on any body kit like a splitter or anything, because the car is lowered and I don't want the splitter literally catching on speed bumps and just ripping off. So there's no point in doing anything like that. I'd rather just keep it quite stock. So I'm running Racing Line's lowering springs, which are a 20mm drop all around, and I do think that the lowered ride height now gives the car a purposeful look, and the wheels and tyres fill the arches quite well. I'm also running Racing Line's underbody braces for a sharper chassis setup, and a lot of those kind of results you can feel on the drive around a tight country lane. So the interior features the GTI body hugging tartan seats, which is quite a nice feature. The steering wheel is a nice size. It's leather wrapped with perforated edges. The only upgrade that I've done to the steering wheel is I've fitted the Golf R paddle shifters, only because the GTI ones are quite standard feature across the range and they just feel like little buttons rather than paddle shifters, and these ones have got a real nice feel. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about the maintenance cost on my Golf GTI. I mean, I've only owned the car for 12 months, so I can only go by what it's cost me in the last 12 months, but the car has done 23,000 miles, and ironically yesterday the car was at the local dealership having its major service done, and I've got the invoice here. I've got the car on a 2-year service plan as well, which means I won't have to pay for anything for 2 years, but this invoice shows what it would have cost me if I had to go and pay for the service yesterday. So just going through, like, say, the service history on this car. So the first service on this car was done at 8,000 miles, which was just an oil change and the oil filter. The second service was done at 16,000 miles, which was pretty much the same as the first one, but it also included the brake fluid, which was at the additional, well, which was an additional cost, and he also had the pollen filter changed on the last service at 16,000 miles. So yesterday when the car went into the Johnson's VW group, where I had it serviced, I asked them if they could do a major service on the car because I wanted the spark plugs changed. So it wasn't really much of a hassle, they just agreed to do it. And what I've got here is a breakdown of an invoice which kind of shows that I've had the oil change, the oil filter, the sump plugs and the washer. It's also had the pollen filter changed, the air filter changed, and 4 new spark plugs, and that has not cost me anything, but if I was going to pay for it, it would have cost £299. A major service isn't going to break the bank as such. You could go to a VW specialist and get this done, and it probably cost you a little bit cheaper than the £300 for a major service. If you go for, like, say, the minor service, you can knock off a few items and some labour charges, and it'll probably be down to about just over £200. So it's not too bad in terms of how much it's going to cost you to run one of these cars. In terms of MPG now, this car has been averaging roughly around about 30 MPG on a local run. It's got a 50-litre tank of fuel, so it's not going to cost a lot to fuel this car up. I'm usually filling this car up from reserves of about 43 litres, so it's about £60 to fill this car up, and I usually get over 200 miles, around 220 miles on the tank locally. If you are combining the journey with a bit of a longer run, you can easily get like up to 400 miles. I recently done a combined journey and I was averaging around about 39 to 40 mpg and I was getting 350 miles on the tank. So it's pretty good for the amount of, you know, say performance that you've got on this car on a day-to-day basis. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take you out on those country lanes, give you a nice Sunday drive. The sun's out as well, the car's going to pop in this colour, so yeah, let's just go and do that and continue this review of my 12-month ownership on those country lanes. So from the current crop of hot hatchbacks, where does the GTI even sit these days? I mean, you've even got like a VW Golf R, for example, this car's sibling, and that's pushing out well over 300 horsepower, and it's a proper hot hatchback. Then you've got Audi offering the S3, you know, similar kind of horsepower and power to like the Golf R in a little bit more comfortable format. You've then got a hyper hatch, which is the RS3. You've got offerings from AMG, the A45S, you've got the A35, all of which are producing more power than this car and four-wheel drive. And then you've got offerings from Honda as well, the Type R, which again has got more power than this, and it's a front-wheel drive setup. You've even got a Hyundai i30N, which is a fantastic car, and it has more power than this as well. So where does like the GTI at 240 odd horsepower kind of sit, and how does that portray on the road? Well, I've been living with this for the last year, and I have had some of like the best hot hatchbacks out there as well, such as the Type R. I've had the M140i, which is the predecessor to the current M135i, and you've even got the 128 Ti, which has got more power than this as well. So it's a bit like, why would you buy one of these cars? But over the last year, since I've owned this car, I've actually began to appreciate what this car's capabilities are like, and also how this is actually set up against some of the best in class. And I'm going to go through some of that with you guys on this drive. So for me, a hot hatchback should really engage the driver. It should take a lot of like the standard boring stuff from the regular car, spice it up a little bit in a recipe, and then offer it to you on that drive. And I think the GTI does that in a real good way. As I've said, I've experienced quite a few hatchbacks, and I've owned some of them myself. The M140i, for example, that I had was just a nuclear bomb. It performed brilliantly, but the car didn't handle as well as, let's say, a Honda Civic Type R did. So from a point-to-point car, it was fast in a straight line. Handling was a little bit questionable. The GTI is a front-wheel drive car, so you do get a lot of that kind of front wheel drama with this when you're pushing on, although it does it really well because of the VAQ diff that this car's got. It kind of manages that power really well, and it also eliminates a lot of, like, let's say, the wheel spin as well. The interior build quality of the GTI in places is quite questionable. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's brilliant, but it's based on a regular Golf anyway. It definitely feels more upmarket in here than, let's say, a Honda Civic Type R does. It definitely feels better in here than, let's say, a Hyundai 130N does as well. The issues I have had with this car are, like, you know, the infotainment system is a bit questionable, but once you get used to it, you live with it. You hook up your Android Auto mobile phone or your Apple CarPlay, and it runs absolutely fine, no drama with that. So what the Golf GTI does is it slips under the radar really well. It's not as loud as, let's say, some of its rivals out there, and that's probably a key appeal of the GTI. One thing I do like about the GTI here is the way it's kind of set up, like from an interior point as well. Put aside the questionable materials, but the driving position is absolutely superb. The seats are really nice, you know, the body hugging in the right places and whatnot, and just generally, like, when you're driving around, you do feel that it's quite a sharp car, although it might not be as sharp as, let's say, a Honda Civic Type R from a front wheel drive offering. It's pretty good. It blends the quality of the German build quality as well as, like, say, the sporting appeal of some of the other cars, so it actually performs really well. In terms of power, 245 horsepower is plentiful for an everyday drive. If you just flick the car into its sport mode, you know, it's got plenty of power. It'll keep up with, you know, quite a few hot hatchbacks out there anyway. So one thing I like about this car is, like, the handling dynamics of this car. I know I've kind of fettled with, like, say, the suspension and the geometry and the underbody braces, but it's superb. it really brings together a real great package. And when you're on this country lane and you got some winding corners and bends, it just sticks to it. It kind of pulls you into the corners and it eliminates all of that understeer as well, which is just fantastic, because the last thing that you want is a front wheel drive car that can't put its power down. And I suppose that's where this kind of car really manages its 240 odd horsepower going through the front wheels and dealing with like all of these undulations in the road. These roads today are caked in like water. We've had quite a bit of rain, you know. So I'm not gonna lie guys, when I first picked up the GTI about a year ago, I did feel a little bit underwhelmed with the whole kind of experience. And the reason for that was I was coming out of cars that were a lot faster than this, from outright speed and power and whatnot. My M4, the Porsche Macan, the M140i before that and whatnot. So it did feel a bit like, you know, I was expecting this car to be like quick, and it's not. I mean, my A7 for example, 0 to 60 is faster than this car, or it might be on par with it, but that's a completely different car altogether anyway. But over time, I've started to appreciate this car a lot more, especially in the handling department, and how this car attacks corners and how he actually puts his power down without, you know, kind of just sapping it away with the wheel spin. It is front wheel drive, you are gonna get, you know, wheel spin, you can't avoid that, but like I said, like the electronic diff on the front does a great job of, you know, taming that power down quite well. And the few like little modifications that I've done to the car, from a handling point to the interior with these paddles, it really does make the whole experience quite nice. Okay, that looks really sketchy in terms of water. I should be okay though, let's give it a go. I mean, you come out for a Sunday drive, you don't expect to be going through like a river. You can't even see the potholes beneath you when you got water like that, but hey ho. So every now and again I always ask myself this question about where do I see myself with the GTI. Do I see myself holding on to it? Do I trade it for something faster? Do I sell it? And every time I kind of convince myself, yes, I'm gonna probably trade it in, I take it for a drive. By the time I parked back up at home, I'm kind of thinking, no, I'm going to hold on to it, because it is a fantastic package altogether. And I know I've done quite a bit of things to it to make it a bit more individual, but even still, it's quite a nice daily. I mean, around town, this thing feels way quicker than like my M4 ever did. I don't know whether that's just the way this car has been set up from a map point, but it just feels, you know, so much more agile. It feels so much more urgent. The DSG gearbox in this is pretty fantastic. You know, you never see yourself in the wrong gear, no matter what driving mode that you're in. And the power delivery in this thing, it's quite linear as well. Like, it doesn't dump all of that torque like the way some other cars do. And it's always like making you chase that kind of red line in the way. I mean, look at that. It's quick enough. It's quick enough without much effort, to be honest. There's quicker hot hatches out there, no denying that. But there's just something about this, and I quite like it. I think if you got yourself a GTI right now, you won't be disappointed. I mean, you can map the crap out of these, you know, and you can get over 500 horsepower. I know people have done it and they perform, and you know what, it's a great platform for that as well. So if you're looking for like a hot hatchback in the current crop of them, I certainly think if you got yourself one of these, you begin to appreciate it, and you know, over time it'll be like the best hot hatchback that you ever probably bought in your mind. And that's how I feel right now about it, from a day-to-day point. And it's not going to break your wallet in terms of running costs, your maintenance, like I've kind of pointed out earlier on. If you have found this video informative, if you've enjoyed today's content, give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below, and hopefully guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.